All right, here we go. Good evening, everyone. We just want to welcome you here to our regular meeting of the South Utica Lyndhurst Board of Education. Today being Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. It is now 6:01. May we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mr. Bloomberg,
Here.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Here.
Mrs. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Lee,
Here.
Mrs. Ryan.
Here.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hill. We can go right into the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and justice for all.
We're getting better.
We can, right. We can go right into item 2.1. Do we have any legislative reports, Mr. Bloomberg?
Yes, we do. And I'm more than excited to share what our legislators are doing. And I will certainly try to keep my own opinion to myself, but we'll just see how that goes. All right. So the Ohio House passed on April 21st, substitute House Bill 110. That bill was amended through an extensive committee process, included many educational related changes. The largest change being the inclusion of House Bill 1, which is the Fair School Funding Plan. Modifications included establishing a phase-in amount for the plan's increases for fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. Also setting a different phase-in for the increase in funding for disadvantaged pupil impact aid for 22 and 23. And then there's a temporary guarantee to ensure a school district's funding for fiscal year 22 and 23 is at least the funding received in fiscal year 2021. So we'll actually see if they've done anything different than they have in the last 20 years. And this is a great quote. Ohio is closer than it ever has been before to a constitutional system of school funding. I know in my heart that there is no more time to delay. Like 25 years wasn't enough. That's a direct quote from one of our illustrious state elected officials. And we'll just leave that for you to digest. Let's see, what do we have next? Nothing on that page. Just a couple of House bills or Senate bills that have been introduced. House Bill 253 is to prohibit school districts, among others, from requiring proof of a COVID-19 vaccination, because that is an incredibly private item and no one should know that you're not carrying the plague. But hey, our legislators know what's better for all of us. Another item that was part of House Bill 290 is to establish a school funding formula that allows families to choose the option for all computed funding amounts associated with a student's education to allow them to the public or non-public school they attend. So that goes along with the whole fair funding plan. They want to now make sure that once they are fair about giving the funding, that they then funnel that off somewhere else. And then here's a brilliant one. Senate Bill 145 to revise the state report card system. Thank you very much for that. It looks like that particular senator's been asleep for a couple of years. And that is all that is really worth sharing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bloomberg. wasn't as bad as I expected. Do we have a student achievement report?
Yes, I have just one. I learned this. Oh, wait. I learned what place-based learning is. This is from a report from Lincoln, Michigan. Some first grade students, for the most part, were learning science and math through raising chicks. And they were, because they were virtual, they went virtual after a time, at the beginning of the school year, they were actually able to watch the chicks being, well, the eggs were laid, but breaking through the shells, and said that one of the kids was singing happy birthday to his chick, and one, some of them were saying, go, 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 come on out. So they were really involved, and they were able to do some simple math lessons as they measured the chicks and watched how they grew and so on. So that is place-based learning, is a style of learning where students work with the community, and it benefits both the community and increases student engagement. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea. And that's it.
All right, we can go right into item 2.2, superintendent's report.
Josh, can you still see the agenda? I just want to make sure. Is the agenda the ones? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. I have multiple screens. I want to make sure I'm not, okay. Well, good evening, everybody. It is May, and what a beautiful week we are having so far. Just a really short report on technology, and then I'm going to introduce a couple new people to our district. So technology, what a difference a year makes, especially with technology. We just keep growing and growing with our commitment to making sure that we have technology as part of the teaching and learning process and in every classroom. So just a couple little bit updates. So Schoology is in all SEL buildings. We have had over, oh my goodness, 2 million individual sessions counted when a user logs in. That's how they measure that. They have had almost 250,000 course materials created by teachers, and this would include assignments, discussions, etc., and nearly 600,000 student submissions. We have outfitted all teachers with newer, more powerful Dell laptops, USB cameras, and online teaching tools. We've been refreshing all desktop devices and updating to Windows 10. We have nearly finished installation of all equipment at Brush High School's Innovation Lab, and we've replaced 1,200 older student Chromebooks with plans to replace another 1,200 this coming school year. So just letting you know, again, when I came to the district 9 years ago and did my walkthroughs in the buildings, I would ask the question, well, why does this classroom have a smart board? And that's what they used back then, and the other one didn't have it. And it was really Legacy Village, who's been fantastic with giving us grants. If you're really good at writing the grant or could do the grant, this is what they wrote for, were smart boards. And I said, well, that's not going to do. You talk about equity. We should be able to walk in every classroom in SEL, no matter what building you're in. And several years ago, we started a project that makes sure that every classroom had an interactive whiteboard and sound system. As you can see, we're still committed to making sure that we upgrade our technology and that everybody has equal access to it. So I'm really proud of the work we've done. Our technology department has grown, and it should grow because there's going to be more and more technology and not technology in the future. And we have to make sure it's only as good as if it works. So what I want to do, I'm actually, as part of my report, I'm going to introduce Mrs. Ray Bastak, who actually was approved by the board and began in the district May 3rd. The other person, I'm going to hold off into a little bit, but let me introduce her properly. So Mrs. Bastak has a bachelor's degree from University of Akron. Her master's is a master in education from Ashland University. She is a highly experienced and successful administrator with 27 years of experience. I love her belief that she has a consistent and unrelenting belief in equity in education as a means to success for every student. She is committed to improving instructional practices through data-driven decisions. She has had additional training in response to intervention, school improvement, restorative practices, universal design for learning, and education value-added assessment. She has teaching experience. She also has been a principal at the middle school level and at the high school level as well. And as I look at her resume, everywhere that she's been, she has been able to improve the position of her students with student achievement. And she is currently in the position as the director of elementary and secondary education. I know, Ray, I've asked you to come on screen for a little bit so people can, some people have met you or not, but Ray, welcome to South Euclid Lyndhurst Schools, and sorry it's taken us a few weeks to introduce you. It's just been a timing thing, so thank you.
Hi, thanks, Dr. Reed. It has been amazing. I've been on the job for a few weeks, and we have dove right in with the leaders and done a lot of professional development and discussion, and I'm so excited. Everybody is so willing to get to work right away, and especially excited for next year to go back to having kids in buildings and really being able to educate and raise the expectations and get these kids on track. And I'm so excited to be a part of this district. It has been so welcoming and overwhelmingly loving. It's unbelievable. So it is a great place to be, and I'm so excited.
Well, thank you. Welcome. My other guest I will invite on in a little bit when we get to certified personnel. But I just wanted to, unfortunately, we're doing this in person, but we're still doing this virtually, and I don't want to shortchange some of our new faces that people can see. So thank you for joining us this evening. And at this time, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Mr. Hill, do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Okay. Hearing no public comment, we will go on to item 3.1, the minutes. The regular meeting of April 20th and the special meeting of May 11th, 2021 will be approved as recorded or corrected. Furthermore, the reading of these minutes will be waived. May we get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
I think I missed that.
Aaron had the motion and I had the second.
Before you? I'm sorry.
Aaron?
All right. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
You know what? I'm going to log off of here and log back on to this other portal I have.
Okay. Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye. Going into item 4.1, Treasurer's Report, Mr. Hill.
recommend for approval, item 4.1, the financial reports for month end April 2021. Item 4.2, the bank reconciliation for April month end 2021. Item 4.3, the investment earnings for April month end 2021. Item 4.4, approval of the then and now purchase orders. Item 4.5, the 5-year forecast for the May update 2021. Item 4, donations. And finally, 4.7, recommend for approval items 4.1 through 4.6.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. May we get a motion to approve Treasurer's Report, items 4.1 through 4.6?
All right, so moved.
Second.
Linda, can you pull up the forecast?
Sure. Okay.
Cassandra, are you good now? Can you hear?
She just left again. I think her call dropped again.
She's on here. I think she's just muted.
I'm here.
Okay.
Give me a
So-
second. Josh, it's the Excel spreadsheet, correct?
Yeah, it's the first one there.
Okay, and let me stop with that, and I have to share this tab instead. And I will try to. Has it changed? Let me see if I can grab it a different way. Let's see. Good.
Did everyone hear that feedback, or was my mind just penetrated by aliens?
It's our computer.
I did not hear it. No, I didn't hear it.
It sounds like your computer, how it used to run, and now it was loud.
Oh, did it really?
There we go.
Is that good?
Yes, that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly go through the May update. This, of course, is typically a May update is just kind of adjusting the actuals and any kind of changes that have come from the kind of full forecast that we do in October. Obviously, this was unlike any year. So this is a little bit more of an in-depth update than typical. So I'll work through line item by item. And if you have questions as I'm going, please, by all means, stop me and we can work through it. So I'll start with line 1.01. This is the general property tax line. Real estate comprises 72.99% of our revenue. So for the 5-year forecast, this reflects an increase of just over 2.7 million in fiscal year 2021. This is a combination of 1.2 million in delinquencies collected, which is a decrease of roughly 425,000 from the prior year, and an increase in collections of about 3.1 million. Most of this due to a half-year collections for the 5.9 mil levy that was passed last spring. The actual collected for fiscal year 21 was 45 million or 45.4 million, just over that. And the estimate for fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2025 assumes that full year of collections of the 5.9 mil levy for next year, an additional the second half of 2.3 million. So taking into some consideration for decrease in collections due to the economy over fiscal year 21, for fiscal year 22, the total of roughly 46 million, almost $47 million for that item. Item 1.035, this is our unrestricted grants and aid. This comprises 12.45%. This is our foundation amounts. Governor DeWine announced on 5/6/20 that the state would be cutting roughly 21%, over 900,000 in that current year, so fiscal year 20, and also in fiscal year 21. For fiscal year 21, about 400,000 of that was returned. So we got an increased amount over 20. We're still not at the previous cut levels, but are improving. No increase or decrease is assumed for any future biennium budgets or the Cup-Patterson proposal beyond 21. So that amount is flatlined. The casino revenue, which is also under this line in the forecast, took a pretty big hit. It was only 135,000, which in prior years was closer to 170. So it took a pretty big hit considering, I mean, the casinos were shut down for a good chunk of the year. The estimate for fiscal year 21 is 7.7 million, or just over 7.7 million, and no increase is assumed for 22 through 25. 1.04, the restricted grants and aid, is roughly 1.42%. This comes right off the foundation as well. This line is comprised of your catastrophic reimbursement, economically disadvantaged, and career tech funding. And a slight increase is assumed from last year of a little under 15,000. And no increase for this, as well as for the same reason I locked in the unrestricted, is assumed for fiscal year 22 through 25. Item 1.05, the property tax allocation. This is 9.34% of revenue. This line has a direct correlation to the general property tax line, since this is where the homestead and rollback reimbursement of 12.5% it is fed back from the state. We get reimbursed for the discounts that are given to homeowners. The district received a slight increase over the prior year, about 29,000. No increase is assumed for fiscal year 22 through 25 because the new levy that was passed does not qualify for this reduction. Item 1.06 under revenue, this is all other revenue. This is 3.30 or 3.3% of overall revenue. There is about a $1.1 million drop from last year's actuals for fiscal year 21 due to the tuition revenue and interest earnings line. No increase is assumed for fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 25. We took a pretty big hit on interest. I know when we look through this, I was doing quite a bit of investing and getting our monies where they needed to be, and properly investing to get a proper return interest-wise. And due to the drastic hit interest rates took over the last year, we took a sizable hit and a decrease from prior year. Now moving on. Well, first of all, is there any questions on revenue? Okay. Moving on to expenditures. Line 3.01, the personal service line, comprises roughly 54.75% of all expenditures. All staff, including all three unions and non-rep staff, agreed to a freeze on an increase due to cost of living because of the unknown financial status of the district. This happened at the beginning of the year. We all took a freeze. The personal service updated amount estimate for fiscal year 21 is 33.1 million. A 2% increase was assumed for fiscal year 21 based on 0% for the cost of living allowance. That's the freeze there, and then 2% for the step increase cost. For fiscal year 22 through 25, only the 2% step increase is assumed each year, being that we don't have negotiated agreements beyond the current year. When I represent this, it's important to know that this increase does not assume that all staff are getting a 2% increase. It just assumes that the increase on the overall salary amounts is roughly an average. Item or line 3.02, employees' retirement and insurance benefits, roughly 22.77% of all expenditures. This district saw a sizable decrease in retirement payments, which is directly tied to the decrease in personal services amount. The district will see an estimated decrease from prior year of roughly 183,000 from fiscal year 2020. For fiscal year 22 through 25, the district has projected individual increases to each of the sections included in the benefits line item. An average increase of roughly 5% is assumed. This does not mean that every benefit, again, is growing by 5%. It just means the average growth across all benefits is 5%. Lines 3.03, 3.04, and 3.05. Purchase services, which is roughly 15.07% of all expenditures. Supply and materials, which is roughly 2.6% of all expenditures. And capital outlay, which is roughly 0.77% of all expenditures. For the fiscal year 21, the district's spending was vastly reduced. It's about 305,000 lower than fiscal year 2020 in all three of these categories combined, due to COVID and the use of semester dollars necessary. For the district budgeting process for fiscal year 22, we looked at every budget line in depth, and I challenged the admin team to cut 10% off the current year budget wherever possible. This was a tough process because I also challenged them to get out of the habit of being reactionary and having to come to me to ask for additional budget dollars once they have submitted their budgets for the year. I told them that it wasn't in their budget. If it wasn't in their budgets, they'd have to wait to the next budget cycle. So really it's closely look at the spending and make sure if you are making cuts that they are not absolutely necessary moving forward, because once the budgets are locked in, that bottom line is fixed. No increase is assumed for fiscal year 22 or 23 through 25 due to the implementation of the zero-based budget model that will continue to be used when the district does their budgeting going forward, with the motto of at or below to be the goal. Obviously, we know there's some fixed costs that do increase, but if we continue to challenge to get out of the mindset of, yes, you're always going to come with new costs and increases, but what is it offsetting? Usually we're not vastly increasing and not decreasing something else. There's always something that's typically taking place of another item. So overall, the outlook, the ending cash balance is expected to decline during fiscal years 22 through 25 from an almost $15 million carryover at the end of 22 to an estimated 1.2 million at the end of fiscal year 25. Obviously, this is not unexpected. This is always the forecast is a worst case scenario. We're always assuming expenditures are going to increase to some level, and always trying to find ways to better monitor spending. And so then again, the zero-based budgeting model and fiscal scrutiny moving forward will always help that. Then obviously I feel much better than the November forecast, just because of the spending being down, but I know that's not going to last. I know obviously we're probably going to get back to normal next year. So taking into effect the unknown effects of COVID-19 moving forward and the state funding, I feel hesitantly confident in the direction of the finances. Questions?
So I do have a question, and I'm going to ask this question coming from a government background.
Sure.
So one thing that has crossed my mind as we move forward with the COVID pandemic, how insurance companies covered all COVID-related expenses and that type of deal. Do we anticipate, just in your history of being a treasurer, do you anticipate a huge increase in medical premiums, even through the consortium? Because that's my thought. Somewhere down the line, they're going to recoup this somewhere.
Yes. So when I do my forecasting, typically, industry standard would say factor in about 8% for an increase in the benefits, which usually covers those bubbles. I would think this would be a sizable bubble when it finally does hit, if it does. We have had some reassurance through the consortium that yes, COVID costs will be covered at 100%, but yeah, at some point the consortium can't continue to take the hit of that. And at some point I would imagine we would see some sort of an increase to offset that moving forward. What I will say is, being worst case scenario, when we look at these benefits, that 8%, which I have in here, obviously it looks it's closer to that 5% average for benefits, but there's not all line items that are increasing at that level. That's at 5% because I'm factoring closer to an 8% for health. And on average from the past, the trending data, our increases have been closer to like 4%. So there is some of that factored in here, that risk of the unknown with those kind those things. Obviously, COVID being the beast that it has been, and I know the cost that the consortium has incurred, I would hope that 8% would be enough on an individual basis. But yeah, there still is that fear of the unknown when it comes to that for sure.
And it's my understanding with the consortium, we pretty much get what we get. I mean, if it comes out high, that's probably going to be the consortium rate that is still cheaper, even though it's high compared to standing alone, correct?
Absolutely. So we would be taking, for instance, specifically with this, where the consortium said that they will take this hit on COVID and pay those costs 100%. If we were standing alone, we would have took that hit full on. And probably, speaking from experience, those are the types of hits that school districts don't necessarily, something this large would be difficult to recover from financially.
Okay. So yeah, I've been thinking about that as we move forward, because we know it's not going to happen overnight, but I just want us to keep in mind as a district, as an administration, and as a community. So just because you look and it looked like the numbers of our ending balances are high and we're all feeling well, because this hit probably won't come for another 2, maybe even 3 years once these entities hit the bottom and they need to figure out how they're going to survive. So that's something we want to keep in mind as we proceed down.
Yeah, what I definitely could see happening is where typically they're coming back to us. And prior to COVID, we were carrying a nice balance to where they were talking about not increasing or having health holidays and things like that. So I do think there's a lot of that's helped them absorb this hit. They were in such a good standing prior to COVID. But yes, at some point, the curve is going to correct itself. And regardless if they say they're picking up those costs now, at some point, those costs are still factoring into the overall estimates for following years. And at some point, they're going to have to do a % increase on what we're contributing to factor into the overall costs for the year.
Okay. It's almost like that housing bubble burst. We're going to have a medical bubble burst, and we need to be prepared for that. Any other questions, comments? Well, did you have more, Mr. Hill? I'm sorry.
No, that was all I have.
Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate the time and the energy that you give to these numbers, because I know it is not easy. Everybody expects you to have the answers and you don't have them. And we get dumped money from the government. And I'm sure there's going to be a moment where they come back and take some of the dump that they've given. So we thank you for your frugality.
Yeah, to speak to that, my concern, obviously, when Neil's going through the legislation and talking about all the different people, at this point, you've got a lot of hands and a lot of different polar end decision makers that are kind of digging into our pockets, if you will. Everybody thinks they've got the right answer, and that's concerning to me moving forward, because what might look good for some other districts might not necessarily hit us the proper way. And that's great that they can guarantee and hold us harmless for 2 years. But if you notice what they said, hold us harmless at 2 years at the fiscal year 21 level. That's convenient because that's a reduced level still. So, the promise is, and that's kind of why I've taken the approach I did. I didn't restore us back to those foundational amounts because there was talks that we would go back to that prior level now that the governor has balanced his budget on our backs for 2 years. The concern is, and we see it with this language, is in these transitional things, sliding a fast one by us and saying, okay, well, yeah, we're going to bring you back and hold you harmless for 2 years at the reduced amount of 21. So what that equals to us is we're losing out on about $1 million right there. And then Lord knows what it looks like beyond those 2 years.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Dialogue. Item 5, superintendent.
We still need a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can we get a motion to approve?
We have that. We just have to take roll call.
Treasurer's items. May we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan?
Aye.
I forgot that was part of your explanation. All right, now we can go into item 5, superintendent's items.
Okay, recommending to the Board of Education to approve the following personnel items for certified staff. You see we have several categories here. We have some appointments for summer program. We have an appointment for Tammy Bishko. I'll talk with her in a few moments here. We have a resignation, Mrs. Sanchez. She's just been doing an outstanding job as a math teacher at Brush High School. I know that I believe that her family is relocating, and we're sorry to see her go. But thank you so much for the years of service that you put here in SEL. I've heard nothing but great things, and we really wish you well. Thank you for your service. And then we have a couple other things with regards to paid leaves of absences, unleave of absence. We do have renew of administrative contracts and non-administrative support contracts. And then we have renew of 1-year limited contracts there and continuing contracts. Again, we'll have a kindergarten readiness camp for some summer programs. You're going to see that there, quite a few summer programs there. And then we have extended days for Mr. Morton, and then our new administrator, Tammy Bishko. Basically what we've learned with regards to technology, it's year round. And I think this is the last year we'll have to do any extended days, because really I think last month we changed it from a 220-day contract to 260, because we found out that every summer we were adding days, and technology, our needs never go away. In fact, July is a very critical month that we get ready for the next school year. So with that, to the board under 5.1 to recommend the certified staff from the superintendent.
Can we get a motion to approve item 5.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Bryan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones.
Aye.
Under 6.1, I'm sorry. Recommend to the Board of Education to approve the following classified staff. And we have here change in assignment. We also have a couple of resignations for retirement. Again, we thank Ms. Howell, who's been a longtime cook in the district. I had a chat with her just the other day. It's always hard to make that decision, but looking forward to spend some time with family. Mr. Maddox, who is a longtime bus driver in the district. Thank you for your service. And then we have some resignation, paid leave of absence, unpaid leave of absence, renew of administrative contract, and then renewal of what we call non-administrative support contracts. And then it is time for our seasonal workers to do some things this summer. And then, of course, we have our substitute folks on here as well. And that completes the classified staff.
May we get a motion to approve item 6.1?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Ryan, Mr. Bloomberg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call?
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
I must abstain.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Did I miss something?
We're under classified staff.
Right. No, I was just questioning.
I actually did miss something, Ms.
You
Jones.
forgot Tamara Bishko.
I did. I'm so
I just
sorry.
texted Sandra, like, did I miss Tamara?
No, I missed it.
No,
So
I couldn't fix.
Tammy, can you come on? I wrote a note here, like I didn't want to interrupt the flow. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. So
I'm sorry,
so
Linda, before you introduce her, I had a question. I'm sorry. I was just trying to note the abstainings. Is there a conflict with Ms. Falkenberg?
Yeah, I already emailed Mrs. Reed about that.
But did you let us know as the other board members? That's who you need to let know. Other board members. What you're abstaining from is my question, seeing that this was sent out Friday and you didn't let any of us know that you would be abstaining from a vote, and our constituents actually do have the right to know what you're abstaining to and why. So if you can elaborate and let us know. As we know, as you are aware, when we do abstain, it does cause, it has a trickle down effect. So if you can let us know what you're abstaining to specifically in regards to this report, the classified staff, what you're abstaining to, please.
I can do that by email.
This is a public platform, just like Neil takes a stance on College Credit
Plus. This is the public forum where you said you're abstaining, so you need to let the public know as to why you're abstaining.
I need to say publicly the particular individual. This is part of the
Yes,
rule.
it is, Catherine. Please look at your rules of being a board member. If you're abstaining from a vote, you actually do need to let us know why you're abstaining to a vote. If you didn't do it ahead of time and you would have let us know as board members, then we could have had your back to say, okay, we understand. Neil does that respectively because he's aware. So if you can let us know as to the reasoning of your abstaining, please. Thank you.
And Stephanie has done it before. For example, like when Jack
When there's
here,
I mean, because typically you abstain.
Platform.
And typically you abstain because it's a conflict of interest.
And we should be aware of what the conflict of interest is as a public body.
There's an individual that is, I feel, should not be on this list. That's all.
Under the classified staff, Catherine?
Well, that's not an abstention, then that's a no vote.
That's a no vote. That's not abstaining.
That's
voting no.
Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize.
That's fine. And because abstaining is just if you have a conflict of interest, like, so if you're related to somebody, it's not appropriate to vote on them. And so you would abstain from voting because you have no opinion either way. But if you have an opinion on somebody, either you're accepting of what's going on or you're not accepting.
Okay, I apologize.
If I could know that we are unclassified, okay? I just wanted to clarify that.
Right, and these are classifieds that are governed by the superintendent's hiring process in HR. Am I correct?
Isn't this?
Yes. No, we're unclassified. We went through certified.
Am I on the wrong one?
Which one do you want me to go to, folks?
Oh,
I'm not really sure where we are. I'm a little embarrassed.
Catherine, would you like me to change your vote on?
She's voting no, or who she's saying no to, we don't know. If she looks under the classified staff, under the agenda, she's able to see if she's voting no for something on there.
Let me scroll, Catherine, let me scroll through classified because that's what we're on. We went through certified already. And Mrs. Bishko, I apologize. I should have introduced you there, but let me get through this part here. So we are on classified, and I'm going to scroll through it right now.
Okay, thank you.
We talked about changing an assignment of Mr. Frank. We talked about resignation, retirement of Sue Howard and Maddox. And I'm reading this because I realize it's hard to see. Ratification of resignation of Nicole Hankins. We have paid leave of absences with Lori Rogers and Karen Gilmore. We have an unpaid leave of absence of Ms. Dorn and Stephanie Gaines. We have an unpaid administrative leave of absence for David Maddox. We have the renewal of administrative contract with this Matthew Gregory. And then we have a renewal of non-administrative support contracts in Joseph Alessandro and Jerome Jackson. And then we have approval of seasonal employees, substitute custodians, and then of course that's what we're on right now. So,
right, Linda. So I was wrong, and I have to change that, Josh, to a yes vote.
Okay. Noted.
So that's a 5-0 yes.
Yes.
All right, we can go right into we can go right into your introduction, Dr. Reed.
All right, thank you. And again, my apologies. A lot of juggling parts. I really wish we were in person. So this is not typically how I I do things. So Ms. Bishko, would you join us again? So we can say, yay, this is all happy stuff. I would like to, the board approved earlier, a few minutes ago, under certified staff contract for Ms. Bishko. She will be our Deputy Director of Academics. It is not an added position. You may recall Dr. Continenza helped us out this past year. He'll be moving forward next year in more of a consulting basis. And with all the work of RRR, it's really bringing on somebody full-time to help us out. So we thank Dr. Continenza. So let me read a little bit of background. She has a Bachelor of Science in Education from Cleveland State University. She has a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with a reading endorsement from Cleveland State University. And she has her principal's license from the Inspired Leadership Program at Cleveland State University. I think one of the things that impressed me the most through the rounds of interviewing Ms. Bisco is that her ability. She's worked in a neighboring school district, but she's ours. She's been her entire career in Cleveland Heights, University Heights. She is no stranger to SEL, the SEL community. Some of you might know her. Two of her children have been graduates of us, and I think her youngest son will be a senior next year. And so she has just been really committed of living in our community. She has worked as a classroom teacher and most recently as an instructional coach. As I mentioned earlier, I think her ability to work with adults and staff, we really look to bring her on for a support for our teachers and also our administrators. We look for her to be a liaison with our K-4 coaches, when hopefully we'll get those on someday, be a support to TBTs K through 4, attend BLT meetings K through 6, Schoology K4, really helping. We talk about common assessments and just her background of working with teachers, and successfully working with teachers to support them. And common assessments, we really look forward to her working in SEL, attend DLT meetings. And of course, this is on everything. Also, we have a lot of academic tutors in our district and really feel like that's an area that really needs more support in that. So obviously her expertise will help support that area. Really looking at if we, any type of guided collaboration time or other time that we have teachers that on our continuous improvement days, get together, whatever we do, might be it. And so really looking at developing our district assessment calendar and just whatever the job evolves into. And just we unanimously just felt that she was just going to come on, and really her demeanor and her how she is a good listener and really support. We just felt that she's a great fit for SEL. So Ms. Bishko, thank you and welcome.
I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for the opportunity. This is so what I do and live for, and I'm really excited to just contribute and help to continue to grow the district. Yes, my students, my children, all gone through the district, and they have had a wonderful experience. And so for me to be able to add to that is truly like an honor. So thank you again. I am so excited. I am ready to work, and I'm really, really looking forward to the growth and the changes, positive changes that we can make for our students within the district. So again, thank you very much, and let's go next year.
We'll give it a round of applause.
And welcome aboard.
So,
I'm sure Ms. Bishko.
I'm sure in the near future we will be seeing reports coming from her and her work as well. All right. So thank you. Let me get to
item 8.
Yes, because we have no supplementals. And let's go to 8.1 is recommending that the Board of Education approve authorizing continued membership in the Ohio Athletic Association for the 21-22 school year. And that's it for business.
May we get a motion to approve item 8.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Lee, Mr. Bloomberg, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
Item 9, superintendent's items, academic technology and innovation.
Yes, we have several there, so we'll go through it in a few minutes here, recommending the following items. Under 9.1, being the Board of Education is being asked to consider the approval of the addendum to the contract of Ron Stewart and Associates for the 2021 school year for 15 extra days. Just for those that are not familiar, he is a consultant that we work with when it comes to our federal grants. You might hear of Title I, Title II. We also have the ESSER funds we're talking about is a very, how should I say, robust documents that we work through in budgets. And I'm not surprised that we might have to use a few extra days here. He's been a tremendous help for us to get our approval dates and meet those deadlines with his expertise. So that's what that contract is about. 9.2 is to consider the approval of the contract with Illuminate Education. And this for the 2020, 21, 22 school year. This will be supported by ESSER funds. And again, these are things that are going to, help support. I think Illuminate is like a warehouse to be able to put some of our work and different things. And you'll probably hear more about it as we continue to learn more about it ourselves through our training. 9.3, consider the approval of the sponsorship between Power Ad and the South Euclid School District. That is 9.4, approval of the following agreement with the East Central Ohio Service Center to provide American Sign Language at Breast High School for the 21-22 school year. 9.5, approval of the new course of study for the High School Robotics 1 course, 2021-22 school year. 9.6, approval of the addendum to the Memorial Junior High and Brush High School course of study books for the 21-22 school year to include Career Connections and SEL course. And again, just a little reminder for those not listening in, last week when we had our board work session, we talked a little bit more about those courses that were being developed and we're very excited about. 9.7, being asked to consider the approval of the Brush High School summer school for credit recovery at no charge to students. And then 9.8, the Brush High School Summer School Handbook. And then 9.9, Apex Learning Success Package. This will be also supported through the ESSER funds, again, federal dollars. All of this, a lot of is part of our phase 2, our recovery phase. We talk about our RRR plan that you're seeing. And then 9.1, recommendation of academics, technology, and innovation items as presented, 9.1 to 9.9. I'm sorry, that's 9.10 there.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. May we get a motion to approve items 9.1 through 9.9?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Ryan, Ms. Falkenberg. Any questions or comments?
Yes, this is Neil. I have comments on 2 of the items. The first one is 9.2, which is Illuminate Education Contract.
Yeah.
They indicate, well, in the notes that were provided to us, it says that we're getting a 5% discount on year 2 and 3, yet the attached proposed contract does not show that 5% discount.
Okay. We will make note of that, Mr. Hill. I don't know whether, and then I know Mr. Capel has been working with Mr. Morton on that. So,
yeah, we'll take a look at it tomorrow, Dr. Reed. Thanks for the heads up. Neil.
No problem. The second thing is 9.3, the Power Ad sponsorship. And this is not about the who or the what. But when you look at, they're willing to give us $600 in return for 365-day visual of their service or product. I don't care that it's the Army National Guard. It's still 365 days of promotion for this particular thing. Plus, they PA announcements during each event that are held in the gym, how many events that we do actually hold, and what is that value really worth? And then a quarter-page posting on Twitter and Facebook thanking the Army National Guard for their sponsorship. In my opinion, we're giving away the farm, and $600, quite frankly, is not going to make a huge difference to our district. And while we do not have a very robust, if much of a sponsorship program, I think if we're going to be giving, if we're going to have sponsorships, what is being given in return for the sponsorship should be equitable. And I do not believe this remotely comes anywhere near what we should be getting paid for what we're giving back for it.
You know what we can do? Thank you, Mr. Bloomberg, for that. And since we have a little bit of time, I would be inclined to work with Mr. Capo and the folks that brought this to our attention here, and we could certainly take another look. I would be okay with pulling it and take another look at it as well to see what standard we want to set. And that can be done. We do have time in that, so if that's a comfort level for folks, I'd be willing to do that.
Well, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with pulling that. That's a really good point, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate you looking at it and pointing that out, Neil.
You're welcome. So I believe there would be a secondary motion that would be made, that I would make, saying I move to remove the Power Ad sponsorship for any approval.
We can probably just keep it simple, Neil, since it's Linda's recommendation. She can say that she's pulling 9.3 from the vote, and I'll just write items 9.1 through 9.9, pulling item 9.3.
Okay.
Yep. So
it's like an amendment to the agenda, correct?
Yep. I recommend to move 9.3 for further consideration for a later date.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Okay. And that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, Neil, because you know what it just made me think about? Like you said, we're giving away the farm, especially if we're going to be in the mentality to support the new SEALs protocol. So now you're going to have a lot of other organizations that are possibly coming forward to be able to.
And I agree. It's a good point. You know, sometimes you look at something for face value, but then you look at the bigger picture. So like I said, I think it warrants more time and discovery. So I think that's a good move.
Thank you.
One of those nights I have to get back on track. I don't know. I forgot if we took the vote or not, but just let me know.
We haven't.
We did. Any other questions or comments?
We haven't taken it yet.
Hearing none, may we have a roll call?
Mrs. Ryan?
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Okay, under 10.1, let me get to the superintendent's items for student services and strategic partnerships. Recommend to the Board of Education, this is a College Credit Plus MOU with Kent State University for the 21-22 school year. Then we have under 10.2, we have considered the agreement with the LPN to be paid for using general funds, Title I, ESSER, and IDAB, which are those last three are federal funds. That is for Adrian Elementary, and I think that's for the summer school camp session number 1, which is important to make sure we have those services there. And then we have a Partner for Success, PSI, consider the agreement for an LPN to be paid using general fund, Title I, ESSER, and ID for, did I get through that here? Let's see. Oh, that's summer camp session 2. It kind of looked like the same, but there's just letting folks know we have 2 sessions there. And then under 10.4, recommend for the Board of Education to approve the memorandum of understanding for the 21-22 school year with the College Now Greater Cleveland to support the district's K-12 career and college readiness efforts consistent with state requirements. And then 10.5 is recommending approval of the 12-month subscription to NULA to access social emotional learning articles and texts that are culturally relevant and include social emotional learning themes as part of the district-wide Career Connections and Social Emotional Learning course for the 21-22 school year. So you are seeing some things we talked about in our work sessions, not only just having those positions, is approving some resources to also support those positions or people in those positions. And then 10.6, recommending the superintendent items for student services, strategic partnerships, 10.1 through 10.5.
Just for record keeping purposes, do we want to separate 10.1 and then vote and then go 10.2 to 10.4?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
See, I remember something. May we get a motion to approve item 10.1, specifically the Kent State CCP MOU?
So moved. I'll second.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Mrs. Ryan and Ms. Lee. Any questions or comments on that particular one? Hearing none, may we get a roll call?
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg,
No.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones.
Aye. May we get a motion to approve items 10.2 through 10.4?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bloomberg, Ms. Falkenberg, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question on Newsella. Does that go in, is it a physical publication that goes into the library or is it online?
So, if I may, good evening, everyone. So Newsella is a subscription where the materials will be online, and our teachers will be able to access this part of the career and SEL course. There are a variety of different articles that will help support and encourage the literacy of our students as part of the course that I believe we've shared.
Thanks. I know I'd seen some on the success page, but I wasn't sure how it would be presented for the teachers or students. Thanks, Melissa.
No problem.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill, for 10.2 to 10.4?
Through 10.5?
10.5.
Yes, 10.5.
Okay, 10.2 through 10.5. Mr. Bloomberg,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
We're under 11.0 special education, recommending approval of item 11.1 to consider the agreement with Mentor Exempt Village School Board of Education for extended school year services for a student who attends the Mentor Cares program, and it is their summer program. Under 11.2, recommending approval of the service agreement with PSI affiliates to provide licensed practical nurse services for the summer special education summer program to be held June 15th through July 8th. And then you can see the service agreement there. And then 11.3, recommending approval of the aforementioned special education items 11.1 and 11.2.
May we get a motion to approve items 11.1 through 11.2?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Lee, Mr. Bloomberg, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mr. Bloomberg,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
Item 12.1, information. Does the board have any information they want to release?
I do. I was going to jump in on Neil's report, but I allowed him to complete it. But yesterday I was able to sit in on a Zoom meeting with State Representative Phil Robinson. It was myself and a couple other board presidents from his district and his board. And he was going over House Bill 200 as well as some state funding items. I actually am going to send each of you all the PowerPoint. It was very informative to me to actually see that we know that some of our superintendents have been going hard in the paint. Linda, one of them, for the state report card to change. When he broke it down and he showed us how there are only 10 states that are still left using a grading mechanism and a grading device, I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And Ohio is one of those last states. When he broke it down, I actually had not heard it explained this way. I will give Dr. Motley her kudos, who used to be with us, with things like value added, career readiness, and things of that nature, things that really don't need to be on the report card, and especially a district as ours. And I was appreciative, while he does not have to speak up for South Euclid side, because he's not the representative for the South Euclid side, only the Lyndhurst side. He speaks up for our district, and he spoke highly of our district, especially with all the subgroups that we do have in regards to the report card. So he's going to be sending out something for all board members to actually jump on and meet with him as well. I encourage us all, if we can get on the call with him, it would be phenomenal. I don't know if Linda was able to get on. He said he spoke with some of the superintendents. I'm not sure if you were able to get on, Linda, with that, but he actually spoke very highly of our school district, which I was very appreciative for. And to have someone who actually has our back was actually very, very, very good to see. And it was good to be on that call. So just so you all know, I am going to be emailing you the PowerPoint so you all can take a look. And if you have any questions, he's more than willing to schedule meetings with us and to see how he can have our back and represent us better in our school district.
Right. And if I could, Board President Jones, and Vice President Lee, can I make a comment? Because I did attend a meeting with him about
Absolutely, please.
Yeah. So I did attend a meeting about a week and a half ago with Representative Robinson, and I need to tell you, it was an outstanding meeting. We've been doing the state report card thing for a while. There are 2 bills out there, and I'll try to get these bills right. I think it's House Bill 200, and then there's Senate Bill maybe 145. In our opinion, as local superintendents, we really kind of feel the House bill is more in line. House Bill 200 is more in line with what we've been trying to see in changes. That we appreciate that the Senate is looking at it, but we're really look to see it. And I think Representative Robinson has a lot to do with that. I did speak up at that meeting and gave my input and feedback. First of all, I thanked him for listening, because we many times have talked to representatives and you don't really see a response that they've actually responded. If you look at, and I say it respectfully, but you know what, sometimes you don't. When you look and go through this PowerPoint, I was extremely impressed, because things that we might have said 18 months ago, you can see it in the response that they have. Also on the agenda is some universal preschool, which I am, me, all for. And there are things that I really want to get up on with him as well. So it has been, we felt that Representative Robinson was very responsive. We know this is not the end all be all fix, but it was really refreshing to see that our voices were heard and they actually tried. And he'll admit to you that the report card is very complicated. And I think he's done a really good job to try to understand it. And so I just want to, piggyback on that, I continue to meet with our legislators and give our input and things like that. And I think the PowerPoint is worth seeing and that thing. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, he was saying that he had 8 PhDs take a look at the report card, and like he was able to 4 out of couldn't even understand it. And he's like, these are PhDs, and if they're having a hard time distinguishing upon it, how are we? And how do we expect our constituents to understand and relate to this report card? So it was very, 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 very informative. So thank you.
One of the things we told him is what we don't want to see is go from an A to F system and then go to a star system, because it turns into the same thing. You got 5 stars, you got 1 star, you're an A, you're an F. I think we really need to look at is just what your point was, is really, look at, we used to call it ODE math, but if you look at the calculations of how they calculate, if it's that difficult for mathematicians or different to explain it, how do you think our families feel? And so it's really, not just treating the symptoms, we are looking at change in some of the root causes of the negative impact of the state report cards. So that's where I am seeing some of the changes start to happen. So sorry, I get a little passionate about it too, and I'll be quiet.
No, we like the information. Thank you. Any other information? No. Well, I will release this information. Stephanie, I'm surprised you don't have any PTA stuff.
I wasn't there last meeting. I had work, so
I don't. Yeah. I'll just shamelessly plug in some of this stuff. So for all the families that are listening, we are approaching graduation. Keep in mind all your student fees have to be paid by May 30th because they will withhold if you don't have those satisfied. So get those in. Last day of school is approaching. We are having the senior celebration. I know those numbers are kind of low. We haven't had the opportunity for a lot of the reach out and communication that we typically would have had while in the building. So if your senior families are listening, please encourage your kids to join their senior classmates for the senior celebration that night on June 4th from 6 to 10. You can talk with PTA on how to pay. I believe it's $10. And they're supposed to have a plethora of activities and food and things to do that evening for the seniors. And then graduation, again, outside at Corp Field, June 9th, I believe 6 o'clock, I think. And I believe this is our last meeting before we prepare and shut down our buildings for the summer. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to wish everybody well those last couple of weeks. I know we got some testing protocols coming up. It's kind of awkward. We're testing for stuff and I don't even know how much we've mastered, but we'll live with that. And enjoy your last couple of weeks in your respective school buildings. And that's all I have to say. We will go right into Board of Education 12.3 board policy and policy adoption. Following policies were presented for first read and preliminary review at the board meeting held on April 20th, 2021. It's policy 2240, which is a revision of controversial issues, 2260.01, a revision of the ADA prohibitions, 2266, a revision for non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs and activities, 6144, revision for investments, 6146 is a new policy, post-issuance compliances for tax exempt, 6600 is a revision of deposit of public funds, cash collection points. 7440.01 is a revision for video surveillance and electronic monitoring. 8500 is a revision for food services. Those were all attached to your board docs. If you want to break them open and take a look at them, they are there for your perusal. May we get a motion to approve item 12.3?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bloomberg, Ms. Lee, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mr. Bloomberg?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Mrs. Falkenberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan?
Aye.
Item 13, closing. I do not see any public comment, Mr. Hill.
None.
No. Hearing no public comment requests, we do not have any. And then I believe we have a brief need for executive session.
Yes, briefly.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And for those of you who come in later to hear the broadcast, we are going to break for executive session. We will be meeting for the purposes of what do we got here? Employment, probably. Employment. Please know that there will be no action taken in executive session. So we are able to hold them according to the bylaws and policies that we have. These are matters that are required to be kept confidential. So we will go into executive session. It is now 7:15. May we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Williams Falkenberg. And good evening, everybody. I guess you can see you next.